Well, welcome to Real People, Real Voices. I'm James Jackson, your host.
And I'm Wayne Moore, your co-host.
Excited about what we have on today with regard to our guests. We want you all to stay tuned right here on WHMB Channel 40. It's an exciting show today. You know, Dr. Moore, there's an election coming up.
Yes, it is.
Not just for president, but for Indiana's new governor.
Yes, and it's going to be a great time for Indiana. We're going to hear from a candidate that's going to give us his vision, give us a little bit about his personality, and tell him where he plans to see Indiana go for the next 4 years if he gets the office.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot going on in politics. I told someone the other day, I said, who needs to play fantasy football? You can play fantasy politics.
Yeah, you can. But, you know, this young man that we have today, one of his pet peeves is he loves Sunday school. And so we're going to hear what he has to say about Sunday school and politics and the people of Indiana and where he plans to lead the state.
And certainly he's not new to the political landscape.
No, he isn't, by no means. I think this is his second time trying to be the governor of Indiana, and I think that he's doing a good job throughout the state. I hear a lot of good things about him, making a lot of stops, making sure the people know who he is and what his agenda is and what he plans to do for the state of Indiana.
And that's big, you know, 6 million plus people living in the state.
Yeah, and 1 million are watching this show.
Yeah.
So we're happy to have him with us today.
Yeah, so we want you to stay tuned right here on WHMB Channel 40. Exciting show on today. The new election coming up in November for president, also for governor of the state of Indiana. John Gregg is with us on today. We're looking forward to hearing from him. Want you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more information. In fact, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and post this on your social media. We hope that you will do that. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a bit. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices with your host, James Jackson.
And I'm Wayne Moore.
You know, Dr. Moore, we have John Gregg here, and I just want you to introduce him to our viewing audience. We've got a governor's race that is not just coming up, it is in play.
Yeah. I watched John Gregg for a few years now. The last election, he fell short. And
not by very much.
Not by very much, yeah. And most of that was due to lack of voter turnout in Marion County. And hopefully that people will realize, no matter who the candidate is on either side of the aisle, that they do need to vote. And I think that's what we're about to push and to bring forth to the community, that it's important that we do that. But we have a special guest with us today that's going to give us some insight on what's happening in Indiana and what he plans to do. Welcome, John.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you, Dr. James. Appreciate the opportunity to be here on Real Voices, Real People, and I'm a real person, so I'm glad to be here.
With a real voice.
Yeah. Tell us, what's your vision for Indiana?
You know, I like to envision an Indiana that's better for all Hoosiers. It's a place where people are making more money. I hear a lot of people talk about we have low unemployment. You know what? That doesn't mean anything. People are working harder and making less. That's what we're seeing. Family of 4 in Indiana sits down for supper tonight. They make $7,800 a year less than that average family nationwide. That's not right. We need to focus on the wages, focus on the quality of job, not on the quantity of job. We need to do a much better job on our schools. We need to do a much better job with our infrastructure. We need to deal with and focus on the economy. And if we focus on high wage paying jobs, we'll focus on education. We can't talk one without the other. And if those two things are clicking, we'll have money in our coffers to do things for roads, bridges, city streets, street lights, all of the things, the infrastructure that makes our community stronger.
What is your direct plan for education? Because education right now in Indianapolis and in Marion County is a hot topic. And people need to know what we can do, what the new governor will do to improve education in Indiana.
And that's critically important because, of course, with the standardized testing that have been challenged and kind of fell apart, and I don't even know if we've got something new in place yet.
Not yet.
Well, first of all, let me tell you that I view public education as the cornerstone to our economy growing. I view it as the cornerstone to our democratic form of government in the United States. I'm the first person in my family to have gone to college, and that's because I had a great public education. I had great teachers. So the first thing we want to do is quit politicizing education.
Right.
Education should be about the children. It should be about the student. We've got 4 steps that we've released, and you can see them on our gregforgovernor.com. Our very first thing is to have pre-kindergarten. We're one of 11 states that doesn't have anything for that 4-year-old child. The scientific evidence is irrefutable that if you get those children when they're young, they just soak knowledge up like a sponge. We've got monies from getting federal monies that my current opponent said no to because he didn't like the president. And we've also cut out some waste and inefficiencies. And by cutting out the testing, as you talked about, James, we've got money to implement pre-kindergarten statewide. It's just phenomenal what that does.
You're basically telling us, John, that the money's there to implement it.
Money is there to implement it. You have to phase it in over 3 to 4 years just because that's the only way you can implement, but the money is there. We announced that almost 2 months ago now, and the money's there. I understand the state budget. The second thing we have to do in this whole issue is we need to realize that this blaming everybody else for the education problem, and particularly the teachers, isn't working. I've worked for 2 Fortune 500 companies, and I've learned that to make changes, you've got to make the changes at the grassroots. And the grassroots is the classroom, and that means the teacher. Those teachers need to be sitting around this table with civic and community leaders like you, elected officials and business people, and they need to have a voice in how we can make our schools better. Right now, we're blaming the teachers, and I intend to work with our state superintendent, Glenda Ritz, and our local boards, empowering our local boards and communities to have some say. That's the second thing. And then the third thing I just kind of hit on is giving that local board some control again. And the fourth thing I learned that when I was president at Vincennes University, we've got a skilled jobs shortage in Indiana, and it's taking that child from about the 6th grade on, not realizing that some children want a 4-year degree, some want a 2-year degree, some may just want a certification, take a few classes out of college. All of them are going to need to do one of those 3 things. And it's important to us as adults to show these young minds that there are opportunities out there, but reminding them that they need to start picking that path, and as they go along, everything we can do to nurture them, because there is nothing but a huge skilled labor shortage, and it's getting that unemployed, that student that doesn't know what they want to do, to realize there's opportunity out there, and we can do that with the right leader.
And James, I believe when he talks about skilled employment, it entails training and education.
Absolutely.
My question to you, John, is what do you plan to do as it relates to putting resources in place for those who have maybe the grades to go on but don't have the resources, who are at the poverty level? How would you go about helping them?
Absolutely. We've got a huge challenge, and I learned this when I was at Vincennes University as president. College is becoming more and more expensive, and we have to do everything we can to keep it achievable and affordable, and that means keeping the cost down as the state. That also means grants, that means tuition, that means programs that are out there where students can do what's called learn and earn. You and I are old enough, Pastor, Doctor, that they used to call it apprenticeship programs,
right.
But today they call it career path and learn to earn. I got a master's degree and a law degree by working full time and going to school at night. And it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it was the only way that I could do it. And we've got opportunities, but we've got to have a system that works with these young people to let them know that these opportunities out there. There's got to be a little hand-holding, a little nurturing, a little kind of scooting along and pulling along. I've got 3 wonderful children, and my younger son, we're right now dealing with, what do you want to do? It's tough. tough on young men out there. What do you want to do? Do you want to look at one of these career paths? Do you want to consider more college? You know, do you want to try to go in the workforce now? It's everything from counseling, but we have a skilled shortage of people, from truck drivers and electricians and welders, all the way over to entry healthcare people and entry-level IT, information technology people. And if we quit fighting all and quit politicizing Democrats versus Republicans and realize we're all people, we could focus on this and help guide some of these young men and women, unemployed and underemployed, into these good jobs.
Great, great.
So we're getting some good information here
Yeah, I think we are.
on the show.
Yeah.
And Dr. Moore, we want to come back in the next segment and kind of let people get to know John Gregg. He's Democratic candidate for governor, state of Indiana. And we want you to stay tuned right here on Real People, Real Voices. We're with John Gregg, and he's going to kind of talk to us about himself and who he is. Many of you may not know him. This might be your first time being able to hear him speak, and been sharing with us his vision for the state of Indiana should he become next governor.
Yeah, and I think it's a pretty good vision. It sounds good. We just hope that it can come into fruition if he's in the office.
Yeah, so stay with us. You can get a fresh cup of coffee. We're going to be right here. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back after this. Well, welcome back to Real People, Real Voices. I'm James Jackson.
And I'm Wayne Moore.
And we've got the Democratic candidate
Yes.
for Indiana for the governor's race.
Yes, he's right here with us. He's been giving us some good information about his vision, but now we're going to find out how he became so accustomed to loving Sunday school the way he does. Tell us about it, John.
You know, I think I grew up in a small town, still live in the same hometown, and today I've heard people refer to themselves as church rats. When the church is open, you were there, and that was the same way, because I've heard kids called gymnasium rats or gym rats. Well, let me tell you, when our church house was open at Sanborn, we were there, and that meant, of course, Sunday, but that also meant Sunday night, and that normally meant on Wednesdays during most of the year, and that was not just a place of worship, it was a place of fellowship, a place of community gathering, and I always did like Sunday school, and I've told Dr. Moore, part of it was, you know, you go to church, as a little kid, you had to sit. You had to sit, and you had to be quiet, and you had to listen. But when you got to Sunday school, they'd ask questions, and if you were dying to talk, they'd ask a question. All you had to do was answer when you could talk. So, but I always did like Sunday school. My faith's very important to me. I don't talk about it a lot. I'd rather think that people see it, and by the way I live. I've also told Dr. Moore I'm not a very good piano player. And I go to a church that has a praise band, but living out in the country, I'm a 20-20 piano player. That means when it's 20 below and there's only 20 people show up and the praise band's not there, I play the piano, and it just barely qualifies for making a joyful noise, shall we say. But I've always enjoyed going to church, and that background, and my mother and father, you know, raised us in a Christian home. I realize there are people of different faiths, but that's how we were raised, and it was and still is very important.
Do you think it's becoming more and more difficult to be a political candidate and be a person of faith?
You know, I don't believe so. You know, what I've always likened some people when they run for office kind of comes down to the Pharisees and Sadducees. You know, they like to stand on the street corner or point the plank out in one person's eye. Why doing that? And like I said, I just assume people realize that by the way I live and act that there's something there something there that's special. And I also, I do think that we've seen, and I think we're all aware that Indiana is a much more diverse place than we were. There's people of all different types of faiths, and there's people of no faith. But I think what we need to do more of, it's showing respect, communication, realizing that everybody is one of God's creatures, regardless of where they live or who they live with or how they worship, and showing that respect. And we need to have more dialogue. I think that's just good all the way around.
Yeah, more dialogue, talking about the issue.
Right. I think because there are some very pertinent issues that we need to be talking about. Another issue I'd like to talk about, many times when candidates are running for office, their administration, after they get into office, really does not reflect the state in which they live in.
Absolutely.
Do you plan, if elected, to make your office, your administration, to look like the state in which you govern in?
Excellent question, Doctor. I absolutely do. I want the voters of Indiana to know that I want Indiana to look like Indiana. I want our administration to look like Indiana. I want someone to see our administration and feel they have a seat at the table. Right. I want everybody to realize this is their state government, and it can only be that way if we have all individuals of races, colors, creeds, backgrounds, religion, even geography in the state. As I know you travel around the state, and I do, there's a lot of disconnect when you go out to the four corners of the state. So I think it's real important that in our administration, we really want to make sure everybody feels part of it. The middle class and faith in government's the only way a democracy works. And if we've got good paying jobs, that's going to help the democracy. And by making everybody feel they're part of government, then they'll have faith in it.
With over 300 million people that live in the United States of America, and with all the people that live in Indiana, a lot of people don't vote. In fact, there's a lot of people who are not registered to vote. Yeah. What could you say to those who are watching who are not registered? I think there's still a little time.
Yeah, still a little time.
For people to get registered to vote. What would you say to those folks?
Well, first of all, it's real easy to register to vote. They can register online at in.vote.org. They can log on to any of the state's official websites and can go there. They can go to the license branch and register to vote.
Churches now.
And churches, yes. That's right. And I've registered people myself over the years as a precinct committeeman. But people, for some reason, it always troubles me when they say it doesn't matter if I vote. It does matter. We lost by just about 8 or 9 votes per precinct all around the state. And that would have meant a new direction for Indiana, where everybody would have felt welcome. Everybody would have felt like they had a say in government. I encourage people to vote. I'd obviously like them to vote for me, but even if they don't, please get out and vote. It is so essential. Sadly, in 2014, Indiana was 50th in voter participation in the state of Indiana. Now, part of that is because we don't do enough to help people vote. We are tied with another state with the shortest voting hours. If you're a single mom or dad, or if you're a hard-working person, those polls open up at 6 o'clock. Well, if you start to work at 7, you show up at the polls, there's a line, you'll say, well, I'll catch it after work. What happens if you get overtime? You don't get to vote. We make it tough for people to vote absentee and vote early. I think that we can do more to help people get to the polls and get them out to vote. And that's one thing I'm concerned about. But we need more people voting. We definitely do.
Especially in this election.
So don't boo.
Absolutely.
And don't boo, vote.
That's right. Oh, I like that.
Don't boo, vote. Don't hate, participate.
John, we've seen a lot going on in our final time here as we're coming to the end. And of course, Mike Pence has moved on to run with Donald Trump. And now Lieutenant Governor Eric Holcomb is your challenger. How does that make you feel? It's a switch up there.
Sure. The issues are still the same. It's about the economy. It's about good paying jobs. It's about education and infrastructure. But you know, this job is too important to take as a consolation prize. And my worthy opponent, this is not the first, not the second, but the third job he's been running for this year. I've been running for one job, and there's a big distinction. I'm running because I want to serve as governor of the state of Indiana. I'm not interested in being governor. The title, the trappings, that's for other people. I want to serve as governor, and that means taking a servant's heart and working on those issues that seem insurmountable, bringing people together, coming up with a vision, and working to move the state forward. That's what I want to do. I want to serve as governor.
Isn't that amazing? Serve. I don't want to be governor. I want to serve. Yeah. So that means he has to serve all communities, all aspects, all four corners of the state. And that would be great for people in all four corners of the state to realize that their vote is important, irrespective of what side of the aisle you're on. Just make sure you get out and vote. And I think it'll make a difference.
Yeah, it's an important state. Well, John, thank you. Appreciate you coming by.
Appreciate it, Doctor. Good to see you again, sir. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on today for Real People, Real Voices. And we hope that you will continue to tune in to this show as we deal with issues that impact your life and the quality of your life here in the city of Indianapolis and throughout the state of Indiana. God bless you and thank you. Welcome back to The Rundown. I'm James Jackson.
And I'm Wayne Moore.
I wonder if we have to keep saying that.
Yeah, we do. We have to.
Because people might just be tuning in.
And that we're on Channel 40. They need to know where we are.
So we appreciate you all tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube on WHMB Channel 40 so that you can go back and look at these shows and also share them with your friends. It was a good segment there with John Gray.
Yeah, John did a great job. He said some things that were very important for the state of Indiana and for individuals. I like what he said about becoming not a politician but a servant, which simply means he has to serve the people who put him in office if he gets in office.
Right.
And I think that's very interesting. You don't hear that type of language coming from those who are running from office.
Yeah, and certainly his challenger, Eric Holcomb, we've invited him.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what he has to say. The community would love to know what he has to say. And I think we ought to always keep what we do even.
Yeah. Certainly, you say even, and a lot of times, you know, you got one side or the other. But I think on Real People, Real Voices, being able to bring everybody who's involved to hear what they have to say.
Right, and that's what it's all about. I don't think it's fair to just bring John in and not bring the other candidate in. We need to hear what he has to say and offer ourselves to him as well as community servants in his plight for governorship of Indiana.
I also like what he said, Dr. Moore, about, asking about being a person of faith and being a part and active in politics. It almost seems very difficult for men and women of faith to do.
Well, they only talk about faith in most instances when they're campaigning because most are visiting churches and meeting with pastors and religious leaders throughout the community in order to get inroads in the community. Because whether you realize it or not, no candidate can really win without the church.
Yeah.
Some people think they can, but they can't. And I think John acknowledges that.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that you are registered to vote. If you're not registered to vote, there's still time. And we found out that you can register in a lot of different places.
Right. You can register in churches. You can register online. You can even go down to voter registration office and do that. But whatever you do, not only register, but vote.
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 Yeah, very, very important. And certainly we can't tell you who to vote for.
No, we wouldn't do that.
But we want to encourage you to learn more about the candidates, presidential candidates, gubernatorial candidates, all of those individuals who are running for public office to serve you. You need to know as much as you can
even state
about
representatives.
them.
Even state representatives. We need to know more and more about them because we need to have them on the side of the community.
Yeah, we need to know them. They need to know us.
That's exactly right.
So again, thank you for joining us. We're excited to be with you each week, and we hope that you will join us again right here on Real People, Real Voices. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.